representatives of the industry, and also contribute to the growth of the export from the state of Telangana. So as I mentioned, I am the Chief Negotiator of India for the India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And we also have my senior colleague, Sri Amit Yadav, Additional Secretary, Trade Policy Division. So he is the Chief Negotiator of India for the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. So I will be making a short presentation giving you the salient features of the agreement. So if there is anything on the Australia agreement, our Chief Negotiator will add anything I miss out. Yeah, next slide. So this slide shows why these two countries are important to India. Both countries are strategic partners of India, and also even we have a very good trade and economic partnership. UAE is the second largest export destination of India and is third largest trading partner of India after the US and China. And coming to Australia, we share the same Commonwealth, and also, as you know, we are members of the Quad. Australia, India, Japan and US. So strategically very important country for India. And we also, the trade is also significant. You can see the merchandise trade is around 22 billion last year. And also there is also significant services trade between the two countries. And one more important thing is, both these countries have significant diaspora. So 1/3 of the population in UAE is of Indian origin, which is around 35 lakhs. In Australia we have around 7 lakh population. As you know, Telangana, a lot of migrants from Telangana are in Gulf countries, especially in UAE. And also in Australia, also many of the professionals from Telangana, especially IT and others, they are settled there. So we can also use the diaspora community when we also try to derive benefits under the agreement. And one more important thing is, both these countries are developed countries. Next slide. If you can see from this slide, so while the population of both countries is small in comparison to India, if you see the per capita income of these countries, in purchasing parity terms, they are 10 times more than India. So the consumption of goods and services by these countries, the population will be much more than average person in India. So that's why if you can see the trade aspects, so they are comparable with both India's exports and imports, more or less. If you see, their exports are comparable with India for the year 2019. So there is significant opportunity for India to enhance our exports to these countries. And also, when we choose these countries, there are also a lot of complementarity that existed between both India and these countries. Because as I said, these are developed countries more or less, although UAE is still as a developing country status at the WTO, but there is complementarity. We hardly compete in very few sectors. So UAE has only industry in a couple of sectors like petrochemicals and metals, while Australia, the contribution of manufacturing sector is hardly less than 7% to the GDP. Mostly Australian economy is service oriented, close to 74% of its GDP. And mostly Australia exports raw materials to India, especially coal, which comprises 74% of the total exports to India. As you know, coking coal is deficient in India, and it is a very important raw material for the steel and aluminum industry. So even by reducing the duty of on coal from 2.5 to 1% also, 0% also, the overall Indian industry will benefit. Next slide. So this is just to give you an overview of the trade. So as I said, when we see the imports from UAE, there are mostly 40% are essential imports, which is petroleum products, and some are re-exports, which are not being covered under the agreement. We have stringent rules of origin where UAE re-exports will not get any duty concessions. If you see the direct exports in the year 2019, 6.5 billion was the direct exports where there was a value addition in UAE, which fulfills the substantial change criteria. So there also 50% we are importing from UAE is gold, which is around 50% of our imports from UAE. Next. So as I mentioned already, Australia we have trade deficit, but that is due to the essential import of coal from Australia, which comprises close to 74% of overall coal imports into India are from Australia. Next. So here you can see the scope of the agreements. So basically these are very deep and comprehensive agreements which India has signed after a period of 10 years. Last year we had signed a small agreement with Mauritius, but it is a very small agreement where only 5% of the tariff lines have been covered. Unlike these two agreements, they are very deep. You can see the scope. So the chapters, these are in red color, are common to both agreements. We have the goods, services, rules of origin and others. And some two chapters are specific to Australia, which is the movement of natural persons, which is very important to India because it will facilitate movement of our professionals from India to Australia and work there and settle there. Second is transparency. So some other chapters are specific to UAE agreement. These are the new chapters for India in any FTA so far. They are digital trade, government procurement, SMEs, intellectual property, and investment facilitation. So Australia, we have done an interim agreement with agreement in goods and services and other areas. But both countries have agreed that by end of this year, we will again start negotiations and again try to conclude the other chapters which are shown in blue in this slide. Next. So this is a very important for all of you present here, the business community based in Hyderabad. So you can see now most of the products like around 33 billion if you include both Australia and India, our exports to these countries in 2019. So most of these products attract at least 5% import duty by these countries. Now you can see immediately UAE is providing market access on 90% of our products of export interest from May 1. So I would like to inform that we have signed the agreement with UAE on 18th of February and agreement with Australia on 2nd of April. So for the UAE agreement, both countries have ratified and the agreement is going to enter into force from 1st of May, which is hardly 1 week's time, 1 week from now. So this is very significant so that industry can simply from 1st of May, you can start availing concession and increase your exports to UAE. And similarly, Australia, if you see, 98.3% of our current exports, you get zero duty on day one. But Australia, the implementation will take some time because currently Australia, there are elections in Australia and the agreement has to be ratified by the parliament. So it will take maybe 2-3 months time for Australia to ratify and then it will enter into force. But UAE will be entering into force from 1st of next month. And overall, if you see, UAE is providing tariff concessions to India on 97% of its tariff lines, which amounts to 99% of India's exports to UAE. And similarly, Australia is giving 100% duty-free access to Indian products. So that is a very significant achievement in consideration to Australia. So you can see the products of export interest, most of the products are also important to Telangana state, especially gems and jewelry, textiles and apparel, agriculture commodities. We have leather, footwear, pharmaceutical products and engineering products. All the products are labor intensive and a huge potential to generate employment also in Telangana and also overall in India. So most products which are in sensitive nature like agriculture products, like dairy and other products which are especially for the MSME sector, we have excluded, India has not offered any concessions to either UAE or Australia. And I would also like to emphasize that whatever concessions we have given to these two countries, so those will serve as raw materials to the Indian manufacturers and we can also benefit for the domestic consumer as well also in the export markets. Like for example, we have given concessions to import polyethylene and polypropylene from UAE to India, which will benefit our plastic industry. We are giving 1% duty concession on gold, import of gold, which will benefit our MSME in the jewelry sector. Like similarly, Australia, we are giving, like as I said, importing coal from Australia, which will benefit our, reduce the cost of production of steel and aluminium. So whatever concessions we are given to these two countries, India will benefit by imports also. So that's what I said. There is a lot of complementarity between these two countries, partner countries, and it is a win-win agreement for India and these countries. Next. So services. So when if you see, look at the agreement on trade in services with these two partner countries, we have a deeper agreement on services trade with Australia. So Australia, except something in the negative list, it has opened all the subsectors to India, over 135 subsectors. So some of the important things here which are relevant for Telangana state, as Telangana, most of the students study either in US, UK or Australia. So students who complete their study in Australia, so they will be assured of a work permit after study from 18 months to 4 years. For diploma holders, it will be 18 months. For graduation, 2 years. For masters, 3 years. And if they do PhDs, they will get 4 years post-study work visa. And also, Australia has agreed to give 1,800 visas every year to allow our chefs and yoga teachers to go to Australia and work there. The visa will be initially for a period of 4 years, which will be extendable every year. And also, one important thing for young people is who are between the age of 18 to 30, Australia has agreed to provide work and holiday visa. Means the people who go there, young people who can work for 6 months and take a break for 6 months. So that also will benefit a lot of people from Telangana. And one important thing is, under the agreement, Australia has agreed to enter into negotiations on the mutual recognition of the professional degrees, like our medical degree or engineering degree, other degrees. So our responsible councils, they will enter into agreements for mutual recognition of degrees. So as I mentioned, 1/3 of the population in UAE is already Indian. So UAE is already offered concessions, but in most of the sectors already more than required Indians are working in UAE. Next. So like we have taken very good measures to protect the interests of the Indian industry. Because UAE is the entry port and a lot of products are transshipped from UAE. So we have stringent rules of origin of 40% value addition with UAE, and also similarly for Australia also. And some of the things we have done for the first time with these countries, like we have a rules of origin called melt and pour for the steel products, where they cannot import any other steel product, do some value addition and re-export. Any steel coming out of the blast furnace only will be allowed to manufacture downstream products also. That is a very important thing we have done under both the agreements. And we also have safeguard mechanisms in both the agreements. And also the first time there is a special review clause after 15 years. This is the first time we have done with Australia. And one of the important thing which is there in both the agreements is the mutual recognition agreement on pharmaceutical products. UAE, there is a definitive commitment that UAE will offer market access to all the pharmaceutical products which have been registered in 6 developed countries like USA, Canada, UK, EU, Australia and Japan. Automatically within 90 days of registration in these countries, UAE will give market access, marketing authorization also. Not only registration, but also you can simply market. So as and when you file some ANDA in US, you can start preparing for this market also, all the pharmaceutical companies based in Hyderabad. So this is a very good thing for UAE market. Even Australia also, they have also entered into a similar agreement, but on a limited scale. So they said they will put all the such applications in a fast track mode where the products are already have recognition in the developed markets. So Australia already, the overall, I understand that the pharmaceutical market is 12 billion, but Indian exports to Australia is very limited as a percentage. So we hope overall pharmaceutical companies of India and especially based in Telangana will also benefit from both these agreements. Next. So this is a projection given by the industry, especially the export promotion councils. So we are expecting the trade, what is the current trade in 2019 and what is the additional trade we are expecting. So currently we are exporting around 28 billion to UAE. We are expecting it to reach 50 billion in 5 years' time. So UAE, we are expecting that it will create 10 lakh jobs in India. You can see all the sectors are labor intensive like plastics, textiles, leather, engineering and gems and jewelry. Next. Similarly, Australia also, there is significant potential. You can see most of the products we are exporting to Australia are currently dutyable. So once we get duty-free access we can significantly increase our exports because Australia currently has FTAs with most of the important trading partners like ASEAN. They are also party to RCEF, and also they have agreements with other countries, Europe and other countries. So now we had this duty issue. Now our companies can compete with all these other countries with whom Australia has already FTAs. Next. So what is the new thing we have done? Earlier agreements, we already have agreements with Japan, Korea, ASEAN and some other countries. Earlier enough consultation was not done, but this time we have ensured that we have done consultation with all the industry stakeholders and also all the other government departments. So for UAE, I have done many consultations with, I think some of you from Hyderabad have also participated in some of the consultations. And that's why this time, like we have signed 2 agreements in 2 months period, and you don't, I can confidently say that I have not seen any negative article so far on any of the trade agreements, both these agreements. Next. So coming to Telangana exports to Australia, you can see the Telangana exports to Australia is very little. It is hardly 72 million in the first 11 months of last financial year. But overall the Telangana exports, global exports are growing. There is a secular trend. If you can see from 1920 it was 7.3 billion. It has increased to 8.7 billion. Now already it is 9.9. I think when the final figures for the month of March will also be released, I think the Telangana exports last financial year it will reach around 11 billion. So that is a significant increase in the exports of Telangana. But however, exports of Telangana comprises of only 3% of the global exports of India. So still there is a lot of scope for Telangana also to at least reach 5% of the overall exports of India. So there is a lot of scope. Next. So as I mentioned, UAE is an important market for India and also for Telangana. So UAE is the 3rd largest export destination for Telangana also. So first I think it is US, second maybe Japan or some other country, and third it is UAE. You can see already in the first 11 months of this last financial year, we have exported $437 million worth of products. And if you just to extrapolate, I think overall it will be $500 million for this last financial year. So once the FTA with UAE enters into force from 1st of May, we see that a lot of scope for products from Telangana like gems and jewelry, pharmaceutical products, and also other engineering products. And we can see textiles also is there. Also agricultural products like meat, we have scope, leather products. So a lot of products, there is a lot of scope for enhancing exports from Telangana. So we hope that this agreement will enable all of you to increase our exports. I hope in 5 years' time, I think Telangana should export only to UAE around $2 billion. So that we should all put the target, so that it will also create at least, we should try to create with both this agreement around 200,000 jobs only in Telangana state. So that should be the objective of all the businesses currently present here in this room. So we should try to increase our exports and try to create more job opportunity and also wealth creation in the state of Telangana. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your comprehensive presentation, which has now provided us with an overarching framework with which our panelists can begin their deliberations. To begin the panel discussion, I invite the following esteemed panelists to join me on the dais and proceed to their respective seats. Representing the pharmaceutical sector, we have with us today Shri Madan Mohan Reddy, Director, Aurobindo Pharma; Dr. C. Satyanarayana, CEO of Laurus Labs. For the IT and ITES sector, we have Shri Srinivasa Rao, CEO, SIA. In the engineering and aerospace domain, we have Shri Vamsi Vikas Ji, Managing Director, Raghuvamsi Aerospace and Defense. For the gems and jewelry sector, we have Shri Mahendra Kumar Tayal, Chairman, Hyderabad Sector for GJEPC. For the agricultural products, we have Shri Rishabh Bhiani, Business Development Partner, Goenka Group of Industries. And finally, but not the least, in the Education Services and Research and Development, we have with us Dr. Shashidhar, Professor at IIT Hyderabad. So I would like to start off our discussion for our panelists. We will begin with the pharmaceutical sector, a sector which has seen India gaining the proud tag of being called the pharmacy of the world. In fact, we are in the state of Telangana here, which is a major pharmaceutical hub of our country. So we'll begin with you, Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy. Everyone is talking about the game-changing movement from these two trade agreements, particularly for the Indian pharma industry. Could you please elaborate on this particular aspect? We are referring to the mutual recognition agreements that have been agreed to as part of the two trade agreements. And could you also help us understand the magnitude of the gains that we expect from this? Can we have another mic for our panelists, please?
Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone. Comes to that today's that point about this mutual recognition, especially this subject. It is very essential for the industry today, especially for pharmaceutical industry. Broadly, I can tell you, especially the pharmaceutical side, we are at least fortunate. India is exporting a lot of products to regulatory countries. In this process, what happens, any industry, when they select the products for the regulatory market, especially for US market, for Europe market, these two markets, they are highly regulated in the world. If we want to go into this market, we need to do bioequivalence study and then lot of development. Almost each product we need to spend around 15 crore rupees to go into this market. When you want to go to that ROW countries, this is also a similar process. Actually, this is the area where more or less every country is asking for that inspection of the facility. Once again, filing dossiers, it takes a lot of time to get approvals. Even we get an approval, once again, to market this product, there will be so many concerns. Especially by doing this type of FTS, especially, we should be thankful to Dr. Srikar. He did it. It is not like that we are discussing, so many years we are discussing on this. Fortunately, it has happened with UAE and Australia. In this process, what it happens, as already we are having an dossiers, we are having the entire facilities are approved by this US FDA and European authorities. And when you are having this type of trade agreements, what it happens, absolutely there will not be further inspection where we can save a lot of time. And then also we can get a quick approval. As per that agreement, if you see, there is a lot of benefit to the industry. In this process, what it was happened earlier also, when we have an European approval for the product, Canada is accepting the same dossiers where you can do the business in Canada. Earlier, Health Canada used to come for the inspections. Today, there is no Health Canada inspections. If these inspections, if you can able to stop, especially as an industry, we will have a lot of time. Otherwise, we are seeing every month there is an audit. Where is the productivity? Everyone wants to come and audit. It is not that it is a free audit. We need to spend money for that. Lot of money. We need to pay for them as in whatever the cost and then whatever that inspection charges. Then once again they take a year or 2 years to get an approvals. These are all, it is giving a lot of trouble to this industry to do that more business in these countries. I really happy to see this type of agreement should happen, go forward, especially with China, especially some of the countries in, even though African countries, some of the countries still they want to come for inspection. Even these facilities are approved by US FDA and European authorities, still they want to come and then inspect. Here there is no much differentiation in this because we are filing the same information what it is being filed with US market or European market, and then we are submitting this certification, what they did this inspection, and this is approved by this USFDA approval. Even then they want to come for the inspection. If this type of inspection, if we can able to avoid it, definitely there will be more productivity, and then we can do good business in this in terms of exports.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Staying on with the pharma sector, I would like to ask Dr. Satyanarayana about the opportunities in the generics drug space that are coming up around the world and particularly in our FTA partner countries like the UAE, and tell us about how our exporters need to gear up to take advantage of this.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to congratulate Dr. Srikar, Reddy and Amrit for being the chief negotiators for this fantastic agreement. First of all, why UAE and Australia will come and look at India as a partner for this agreement? That means they are recognizing our capabilities, our quality systems, our ability to deliver right quality products at the right price. I think that is a big achievement for the country. Otherwise, no country will come forward to do such free trade or these economic cooperation agreements. That's a good recognition for the country. That is the biggest thing. And second, India is a pharmacy to the world. But we have to become the intellectual capital of the world also at some point. For that, we need economies of scale. As Mr. Mahotsav mentioned, if you want to develop products for each region, it takes a lot of resources, both man, material, and interestingly time. So if you have the economies of scale, you can get reasonable returns and then able to invest into the research. See, in these countries, we not only look at selling APIs, but also look at expanding the formulation market also to these countries. See, and there are drugs where, for example, rare disease drugs which are marketed in UAE, Australia are not available in India also. Maybe that is also an opportunity. Not only is one way, maybe we can also consider a two-way agreement, giving access to rare disease and some drugs not available in India. Also, those companies in the region can also export it to India. I think I'm sure the government and the officials sitting here will sign more such free trade agreements that will boost further the reputation of the country and also companies who are associated with the governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Satyanarayana. We will now move on to the IT-ITES sector. Both the trade agreements have seen our FTA partner countries offering significant commitments in the services domain and particularly in the IT-ITES space. In this regard, I would like to request Sri Srinivasa Rao, CEO of HYSIA, to talk about the impact on the IT-ITES sector and also on the broader digital trade market. And also I request him to share his views on how our IT-ITES service exporters should leverage upon their existing market strengths and take the next leap.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and congratulations to Dr. Reddy and the entire Ministry of Commerce for this landmark agreements. I think these things do make a difference. I think they will act as catalysts for growth. Now, coming specific to IT industry in India, I want to give you some very quick summary of what it is, where it is standing today. It's this fiscal, it is crossing $200 billion for the first time, as an industry. Probably will be around 220 or something. Okay? Out of that, nearly 170 billion is exports, 170 billion, and remaining is domestic consumption. And it contributes close to 9 or 10%, I don't have the figures on top of my fingers, of the overall GDP of India. And the IT services alone contributes to nearly 50% of all our services, exports. So it's a significant industry. It's an industry that has grown very well over the years. It has now attracted Bangalore, Hyderabad, all these cities have become talent hubs to the world. So everyone is looking to India, not just for services or for even now for innovation, so that more startups and unicorns are coming out of this industry. But switching to these two agreements, like UAE and Australia, if we want to look at things in perspective, I'll tell you, out of this total exports, United States grabs about 58%, and Europe is 27% of India's exports. Now, Asia is 7%, and I'm coming to UAE, which is, I think if my geography is right, it is West Asia, which is just 0.8%. And Australia and New Zealand put together is about 3%. So if the question is there a huge headroom for us to grow in these geographies? Answer is absolutely yes. And will these agreements, I don't know every minute detail of the agreement, I tried to grab when Mr. Reddy was presenting. Will these agreements help in that growth and in filling that headroom? Absolutely yes. But I want to tell you what really matters for an industry to grow in a new geography, like IT industry, and how it has grown over the years in other geographies. Initially, most of you probably know, US used to be close to 75 or even 80%. Then it came down, and then other countries went up. This happened for two reasons. One, the industry, when it started maturing, wanted to reduce the risk of dependence on one geography and increase in other geography. Second, the newer countries have started offering better facilities and better opportunities, just like now Australia and UAE are promising to do. So this is very important. Okay. So when an industry, IT services industry, wants to expand in Australia, for example, what we need is a conducive business environment, the ability to quickly set up offices, start business, the ability to transfer senior leaders quickly to that geography. And I believe the intra-corporate transfer becoming easier comes under that category. And for their spouses to travel, and the children to travel and get a good English education, and the opportunity for spouses, because most of them are likely to be educated, for them to work in those countries. And I saw all these bullets being ticked in the current agreement. That's a very good sign to me. If these happen, the companies will be encouraged to send the senior leaders to set up shop, or if there is a shop already, to expand the operations. Next is getting talent locally. Now, we have seen Indian industry after a decade or so, in all geographies where it is operating, has managed to hire locally and contributed to the local community. And I'm sure it will do so in UAE and Australia as well. But very encouraging sign I saw in the current agreements is for the students to stay beyond their education and work for whatever 3 years or 4 years, depending on what degree they have. Now, it is very natural, while we hire a lot of local talent, it's also natural that we hire our own Indian talent who have studied from those universities, I think. So this particular educational aspect also is going to help the industry, So I see a lot of encouraging factors for the IT industry. Now, what the industry needs to do to take advantage of this is, exactly like we have done with Europe earlier, take the de-risk approach, take advantage of these new features. Do not hesitate to go to Australia. Australia, for example, has several industry verticals like banking, finance, mining, and I think construction. There are a lot of sectors. UAE has, all these sectors, oil, petroleum, we know. But beyond that, there is construction, there is, services, finance. I think in all these areas, Indian industry has the domain expertise, apart from the technology expertise that is required, built over a period of time with Europe and US. It is time to leverage that experience, go to these geographies and scale up operations, And then if the agreements really translate to reality on the ground, and if there is a free movement of talent and senior leadership across the geographies, and that helps the industry to grow certainly over the years. That is my belief, and I do believe, based on what I have seen in the agreements, that there is every intent by way of easing the business services, by way of easing the people movement, and way of including avoidance of double taxation. That will be a big incentive for IT industry. If offshore services are not going to be taxed in Australia, that will become a huge incentive. You just pay one tax and that straight adds to your bottom line. So I'm confident, optimistic that all these measures will contribute to the growth of the IT services industry in these two geographies. So my best wishes.
Thank you. Moving on to the engineering and aerospace sector, as you would have all seen in the presentation a short while ago, delivered by Dr. Srikar Reddy, engineering sector stands poised to reap amongst the maximum benefits from the tariff concessions obtained under these FTAs. In this regard, I would request Shri Vamsi Vikas to delve on not only the direct impact on exports, GDP, and employment, but also on the long-term strategic impact of integration into global value chains. And I would also request Mr. Vamsi to share his views on how the industry, especially our exporters from Telangana, should use this opportunity to achieve economies of scale and find newer markets for our products.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Srikar Reddy Garu for giving the opportunity.
I'll request the panelists to be really brief.
I'll just, take a couple of minutes. Okay, so.
Yes, please.
Okay. So just to give you a brief introduction, I'm Vamsi Vikas, Managing Director of Vamsi Aerospace. Aerospace and engineering is a sector where the maximum MSMEs are there in the country. This is going to be huge for us. Being a FTA, we are level fielded with most of the, agreements are already signed with South Asian countries like China. 5% to 8% is huge in the sector. So, when the opportunity is there where, we have to compete, unfortunately, with this 5% tariff, we are not able to compete, in bigger countries like UAE and Australia. Just to give you an idea, to Australia, we supply less than 1% of engineering goods that they require. That's a huge headroom where we are now put as a level field. Most of the MSMEs are now moving from doing products, services to actually creating products. A lot of innovation is actually happening, with Make in India programs coming in, a lot of aerospace is coming in, a lot of industrial OEMs are coming into India. With this help, there's a lot of headroom for us to move to bigger sectors. Coming to UAE is one such area where, it's a gateway to Africa, to different countries like Europe and South Asian Asia. Most of the products that we are now supplying to UAE are oil and gas or, refining and other sectors. But with huge openings now, with 5% concession being given in terms of tariff removal, this helps us, again here we are doing less than 5% to UAE's requirement. So that's again a huge headroom. Being an MSME, I would like to thank the Government of India and also, the EEPC, where it helps us grow in such countries. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we move ahead and dwell deeper on the next sector, I would request our panelists to be really brief, limiting their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. So the next sector we'll be discussing about is the gems and jewelry sector. Our brands are globally reputed, and now with the execution of these trade agreements, we have provided added comparative advantage to this industry. In this context, I would like to invite Shri Mahendra Kumar Patel to talk about the potential impact from the dual concessions, both on the 5% on exports of Indian jewelry and 1% duty concession on imports to jewelry manufacturers in India, especially in the context of the fact that we are already in the post-COVID economic recovery period? Over to you, Mr. Tal.
Very good evening. Very good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank the Government of India for this comprehensive economic SEPA agreement which we done with UAE in Australia. And I would like to welcome Honorable Jayesh and Mr. Srikar sir for this wonderful evening they have organized. Coming to the point, the agreement which has done between India and UAE is definitely benefited for the gem and jewelry sector. As you all know, our jewelry sector is now almost last year they have achieved 40 billion turnover, which is highest till now. And the 5% duty which we have got exempted from Dubai. Dubai is world's hub for the jewelry sector. Many tourists across the world, they travel to Dubai. And there is a one place where 40 to 50% of our exports are going to Dubai. So definitely this boost will encourage all the exporters of India to send more jewelry to Dubai. And the benefit what we are getting 1% reduction in import duty is another feather in the cap. And that too, first year we got an exemption of 120 tons import, which is going to be reduced by 1%. And from next another 5 years, it's going to increase from 120, 140, 150, 200 tons. So this agreement will definitely boost our sector, as our sector employs. They give employment for so many people, and that too uneducated people. So this is a boost for our unemployment people also. And we are happy. And Australia, though we are mostly into import, and export is very less for Australia. So thanks to the Government of India for this SEPA agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the agricultural products category, I would like to request Shri Rishabh Biani to elucidate on how the trade agreements have propelled us towards forging special food cooperation partnerships, and also on the potential spillover benefits like investments into farm logistics, improved mechanism for removal of non-tariff barriers, and other economic multiplier benefits at the rural level. Over to you, Mr. Biani.
Hi, good evening everybody. My name is Rishabh Biani. So we are in the business of rice export, and UAE has been for the last 3 years in the top 5 countries. Spoke about a lot of strategies that could be used for the food security part of UAE for the coming 6-8 months. Another event that happened with UAE and most of the countries with the Middle East is they wanted some pesticides to be suddenly removed from the agri sector. It's only when the Indian government came in and they spoke about how it is for farmers a way of life. The farming practice is a way of life, and that cannot be changed overnight. So these two events, the government interference or the government participation in helping us negotiate with the UAE and Australia really helped. Trade agreements like this, when UAE understood that India is really going to support us, they talked about how they could have a warehouse in probably Jabal Ali division or even in India to make sure that their food security is taken care of. It's only when government signs these kind of agreements and has these kind of facts that we are able to achieve better results. Our infrastructure is developed just because our volumes are increasing. Our co-exporters, like the bag manufacturing or the freight companies, they do well because we are able to export more quantity. So I really thank government, and I really still encourage government to please keep taking up initiatives like this and sign more trade agreements with more countries so that we could export more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final sector for the evening is the education and research and development sector. And for this, I would like to invite Dr. Shashidhar to enumerate the potential areas in the education and R&D space that are likely to experience a paradigm shift, and how should our service providers position themselves to derive maximum benefit out of this conducive platform for bilateral, mutually rewarding cooperation and collaborations.
Thank you, Manish. Thanks for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts on this platform. First of all, when we look into the education changes were happening. You know. So when we look into ancient days, so if you go back to the person called Tiruvalluvar, you know, he mentioned about in the Tirukural, he was talking about Vasudeka Kutumbam. So he was mentioning in one statement that I am a world citizen. Okay. I am a world citizen and we need to think and act like a world citizen. And that's the main thing which is required to come out in an optimized way. Okay. When we look into the cost of the education and improve the opportunities, okay, we have to look in an optimum way. There are two different ways we need to look into it. You know. So when we look into the student's perspective, many times we look into the minimization as an objective function because you want to reduce the cost of the burden of the education and maximize the opportunity. So when you get this maximum benefits by minimizing this education cost, that's only possible when you think in a proper way. One Bhagavad Gita quotes and shloka, I will name it. Sarvasya shaham hrudisannivishto aham jnanam smruti apohanancha. That means I am sitting in everyone's heart and the constant remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge comes from me. But many times we always think education is a business, but that's not going to help because this education sector and R&D sector has to help various sectors, okay, and it is treated as a least. It should not be, you know, because now the situation has to change because this is the one which actually supports every sector.
Dr.
So
Shashidhar, sorry to interrupt. May I request you to conclude in 30 seconds, please?
I will close it.
Thank you.
So when we look into the, you know, in IITs itself, we have many joint programs with Australia and many other countries. So if you look into Monash and even we have a Swinburne and many other universities like Newcastle and Daikin. So we have very joint, you know, research projects and joint PhD students. So we need to increase that so that the students will get benefit out of it and research also will excel. Because we have a, you know, huge human resources, but when we come to the infrastructure, so we are not that capable and, you know, the GDP that we spend is about 0.6%. So when we look into it, I think this bilateral agreement or treaty should help in bringing the joint collaboration. It's a very important thing for the research and for the skill development. And once you develop this skill development, so once people understand that you are a world citizen, nobody would like to think about, you know, brain drain or any other thing, you know. Instead of, you know, brain in a drain, better to have a brain drain. You know, that's what the people, you know, should accept it now. Anyway, people have already done. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, we have run out of time, so I had to cut you short. So we have had very fruitful discussions and deliberations, which I sincerely believe will act as a good starting point for further discussions during the main event that will be graced by the Honorable Ministers. I extend my sincere gratitude and thank all the panelists on the dais for the informative and engaging deliberations and request them to proceed to their respective seats in the hall. The next element of today's stakeholders outreach program is the main event that will witness Honorable Ministers gracing the occasion in a short while. May I request distinguished guests to continue to remain in their respective seats while our chief guests and other guests of honor join in. Thank you. I would also request all the esteemed guests to kindly put their respective mobile phones on silent mode, please. Thank you for your cooperation. Sir. Shri G. Kishan Reddy, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Development of Northeastern Region, Government of India. Srimati Anupriya Patel, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Senior officials of Government of India and the Government of State of Telangana. Esteemed dignitaries from the industry. Distinguished guests from the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste, good evening to you all. On behalf of Government of India and Department of Commerce, it gives me immense pleasure and honor to welcome all of you to tonight's event being organized by the department in coordination with the Industries and Commerce Department, Government of Telangana, and the Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India, Pharmexcil, along with other industry chambers and export promotion councils. A series of outreach programs in various cities of India, including Hyderabad, to promote the recently signed India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement are being organized by the Department of Commerce, Government of India, in coordination with respective state governments and industry bodies, export promotions councils. Today's event is the first stakeholders outreach program in this particular series. The main objective of the event is to create awareness among local industry, particularly among exporters from India, and for the sake of today's event, particularly from the state of Telangana, and especially from micro, small and medium enterprises sector, to make them aware of potential significant benefits that could accrue to them from these landmark agreements. So without further ado, to begin the official proceedings of the day, I would like to welcome the following dignitaries to the dais for the traditional lamp lighting ceremony. Shri G. Kishan Reddy, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Development of Northeastern Region, Government of India. Srimati Anupriya Patel, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Shri Amit Yadav, Additional Secretary, Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, who is also the Chief Negotiator of India-Australia ECTA. Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce, Information Technology Department, Government of State of Telangana. Shri Dr. Srikar Reddy, Joint Secretary, Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Chief Negotiator of India-UAE SEPA, and also the Nodal Officer for the State of Telangana. I would also request Shri Uday Bhaskar, Director General Pharmexcil, to join the distinguished dignitaries on the dais. I would request the esteemed dignitaries on the dais to proceed to their respective seats. We will now be presenting floral bouquets to the esteemed dignitaries on the dais. Thank you, everyone. Now, moving on to the next element of today's program, I would be inviting Shri Amit Yadav, Additional Secretary, Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, to the podium to deliver the welcome remarks on the occasion. Thank you, sir.
Shri G. Kishan Reddy, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Development of Northeastern Region, Government of India. Shrimati Anupriya Patel, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Senior officials of Government of India and Government of State of Telangana. Esteemed dignitaries from the industry, Export Promotion Council, industry bodies, distinguished guests from the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. Today's event is a part of the outreach exercise, as you can see here, for the two agreements India has signed with two of major trading partners. One is the UAE and the second is the Australia. These are fairly comprehensive trade agreements which cover goods, services and other areas, which with the objective of ensuring that the growth in the trade happens, and leading to growth is the big story the country is witnessing with regard to the exports, the contribution of exports into in our economy, the growth which has happened over a period of time, and where we have now almost 20% of the GDP contribution coming in from exports. It's something which leads to opportunities, employment, addition to the state GSDP, and ensuring that the overall development happens across the country. So exports as a strategy is part of the whole government's initiative to ensure that as we move along, it becomes a part of the story of the growth of the country and a higher economic contribution in the GDP. We are also looking at part of this export is in the goods sector is Make in India for the world, and Make in India for the world is not merely a slogan, it's a reality which we have seen in the last couple of years, and especially the last year, the way Make in India and the products which across various, whether it was pharmaceutical, whether it was engineering, whether it was agriculture, all of it going across. And similarly is the story with regard to the services, where we are witnessing a higher growth, and services is not only in IT and IT-enabled services, but going across various sectors. And despite all the challenges which we witnessed in the tourism, hospitality, aviation, and so on, so sectors, where we could get a growth which is in the double digit, and it continues there. So all of that is part of the agreements which we have entered, is part of that strategy. And I think so, the important thing is what you see here is the union government there, the state government there, the Export Promotion Council there, and it's not the Export Promotion Council only. The Pharmexcil is the lead, but there are other Export Promotion Councils which are there. The industry bodies are there, and the Federation of Telangana Chamber of Commerce and Industry being there. So it's a partnership. The partnership is not only a government-driven partnership, it's a partnership where businesses are part of it, the exporters are part of it, the Export Promotion Councils are part of it. And this has been, even when the negotiations were happening in both of these, UAE and Australia, we had a consultation cutting across industries, and at number of times even to an individual sector and an individual industry to get the feedback and get the right kind of requirement which is needed to negotiate for getting those items and products in the agreement. And I think so more than 400 consultations took place with the ministries, with these sectors, with the industry bodies, with the export promotion councils, to ensure that what we get is best for the country, best for our businesses, and best for the prosperity of the nation. We have, when we were looking at these agreements, we had the chief negotiator for UAE is here, and I was the chief negotiator for Australia. We have ensured that the sensitivities which we got from the feedback from the industry is addressed in these agreements, but the sectors where we have strength, those are addressed. You must have heard just right now some of the concerns which were raised, whether it was in the pharma industry, whether it was in the IT and IT-enabled services a few minutes back. Let me tell you about Australia. We have got if you look at in Google, one of the toughest pharma regulator is the pharma regulator of Australia, which is called the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Australia Regulator. But we involved the Pharmexcil, the couple of industry people as part of our negotiation. We took them to Australia, got an understanding, and now we have a situation where what we heard of the time period and the cost to access market, we heard of getting the reports of roughly 15 crore just to get to that access. We heard the Aurobindo officials saying that. So all of that would be part of it, where generic goods, generic drugs, the prescription drugs, and the factory's approval will be part of a fast-track process to ensure that the challenges pharma sector faces in market access to Australia is addressed. And similar is the case where you just heard that in 90 days a fast-track approval would happen for UAE. This is just one example. We heard in the IT and IT-enabled services one challenge which was there with regard to the double taxation avoidance agreement with Australia and the cost which is being incurred by the IT industry on this aspect. We've included that as part of this whole agreement, that when the agreement comes into the force, the trade agreement, at the same time we would have the double taxation avoidance agreement challenges which we have faced, where actually one of our companies, IT companies, went in before the Supreme Court in Australia and lost, but we managed to persuade the Australian government to amend their law to address the industry concerns. And these are just the examples. Similarly, for the agriculture, you heard on the agriculture sector side, the market access and how it can be leveraged through the UAE to the whole of West Asia and to the Africa, which can be then provided. So on the education sector, similarly, we have more than 1 lakh of Indian students are studying in Australia. And one of the feedback which we got was that once they pass out, getting a visa, work visa is a challenge. Roughly 4 billion annually US dollar is spent on their parents or the students taking loans for pursuing studies there. So we've ensured that every student in the which passes out from an Australian university will be assured of a work visa, which would be ranging on the kind of qualification and the kind of degree or the diploma the student has pursued. So I think so those are very, very significant. And similarly, what was told about in the IT sector, getting the talent, getting the easier movement of inter-corporate transferees, both in the UAE agreement and in the Australia agreement are part of it. So I think so the constant feedback, interaction with the industry, the involvement with various stakeholders, addressing India's sensitivities, but at the same time looking at the long-term period. I think so both of these agreements are wonderful templates for also, as you heard, for entering into any agreement with the developed countries. In more than a decade, we haven't entered into any agreement with a developed country. And I think so that is another part of the whole process which we have followed. I think so I would like to conclude by saying we thank the government of Telangana, we thank all the EPCs who are part of it, we thank all the industries, CII, FICCI, and this is just the beginning. I'm happy to also say that Hyderabad, we've started the state outreach, but we will be continuing and we'll going to various cities across the country as part of it. People who have interest should, we have on 2nd May in Bangalore, and then it goes to various other cities as we get the programs finalized. I think so. The most important message I want to conclude with is the businesses should prepare, look at the agreements, look at the opportunities, talk to your counterpart in Australia, talk to your counterpart in UAE, get prepared so that the moment this agreement, the UAE agreement comes into effect from 1st May, you are able to capture those benefits right from day one. And this is the feedback which we got from the industry, that the government signs the agreement, but we are not made aware of it. So I think so this is the significant part of this whole exercise, where I should compliment all of you for participating and now going out, talking to the concerned individuals, the buyers there, or talking to the associations, business bodies, and through them getting the benefits of the agreement and reaping it immediately. I think so that's the message I would like for all of you to work on and take forward the wonderful agreements which we have entered both with the UAE and Australia. Thank you so much, and thanks also to the various people who have ensured that this has happened, and especially our Joint Secretary Commerce, Mr. Srikar Reddy, who has worked tirelessly to get this program in a short time, and with this kind of presence which we have, I'm sure success in these agreements would very quickly be a reality. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your kind remarks. We will now be playing 2 short audiovisual clips which succinctly encapsulate the essence of both the trade agreements. We'll start with the visuals of India-UAE SEPA, followed by India-Australia ECTA.
Collectively embark on a journey of a prosperous and sustainable future. Today, both countries are leading trading partners of each other, while UAE is the 3rd largest trading partner and the 2nd largest export destination for India. India is the 2nd largest trading partner for the UAE. The two nations now stand poised for a mutual takeoff to realize their long-term goals. India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, a landmark trade pact. SEPA will propel the two friendly nations forward towards a magnificent shared destiny. SEPA can facilitate upward mobility across economic value chains and create hundreds of thousands of employment opportunities in both countries. For UAE, products of export interest like dates, petrochemicals, and metals will see enhanced access to the large Indian market. For India, there will be enhanced market access for products cutting across sectors, particularly the labor-intensive ones like textiles, leather, gems, and jewelry. This is a comprehensive agreement covering all areas of economic cooperation. Bilateral trade is projected to increase to $100 billion in goods and $15 billion in services in 5 years. This path-breaking agreement will lead to seamless flow of goods, services, capital, technology, and people, and mutually enriching and rewarding collaborations to attain sustainable growth, development, and prosperity of peoples of India and the UAE. India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. History in the making. Let us join hands and welcome this new beginning.
India and Australia are strategic partners. Under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India-Australia relationship has grown from strength to strength. His vision of export-led growth and local for global has now fructified. The long-standing bilateral relationship between the two countries is poised to enter a new historic high in 2022. The countries are now an important step closer to facilitating stronger trade relations and people-to-people contact, underpinned by shared democratic doctrines and mutual interests. The Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, India-Australia Ekta, will significantly benefit the two nations by maximizing their strengths and focusing on their untapped potential, all towards a sustainable and promising future. What does this agreement mean? India gets 100% market access in Australia for its goods, benefiting labor-intensive industries like textiles, leather goods and footwear, engineering goods, and articles of jewelry, creating over 10 lakh jobs in the country. Australia gains better market access for its products in the large and growing Indian market. The bilateral trade is expected to grow from 27.5 billion USD today to about 45 billion USD in the next 5 years.
इन उभरती टेक्नोलॉजी में उचित वैश्विक मापदंड अपनाए जाए, ओपन और इंक्लूसिव इंडो पैसिफिक के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता को दर्शाता है.
High quality education in various streams makes Australia an appealing destination for Indian students. Post-study work visa will benefit 1 lakh Indian students studying in Australia at present and lakhs of students in the future. Fast-track approvals will be given for Indian pharma products, making its entry into the $12 billion Australian market easier. Yoga teachers and Indian chefs will get visas and would facilitate rich cultural exchanges.
Our comprehensive strategic partnership, though, reflects the ambition that we share and we hold for our relationship. And the pace and scale of that cooperation since we lifted ties back in 2020 has been remarkable.
This economic cooperation and trade agreement is just the beginning. It's the foundation for many more building blocks. Blocks that will build closer cooperation and unlock newer opportunities by eliminating trade barriers, encouraging investments, and generating employment opportunities. India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. India-Australia Ekta. History in the making.
Thank you. For the benefit of the Honorable Ministers and other dignitaries who have joined us directly for the main event, I take this opportunity to inform you that today's event began with a panel discussion titled Optimizing Merchandise and Services Exports from India under India-UAE SEPA and India-Australia ECTA to destination markets and beyond. Our experts from various sectors deliberated at length and explored ways and means of maximizing our gains from these trade agreements. A summary presentation on this will be delivered by Dr. Srikar Reddy. Before we move to that presentation, I would also like to mention that a lot of hard work has been put in by all concerned stakeholders, especially the negotiating teams of India, UAE, and Australia, to come up with such comprehensive and path-breaking agreements. So to learn more about these agreements in detail and also to get a summary roundup of the deliberations from the panel discussion, I would now like to invite Srikar Reddy, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Chief Negotiator for India-UAE SEPA, and also the Nodal Officer for the State of Telangana, to come to the podium and deliver his presentation.
Chief guest for today's event, Shri Kishan Reddy Garu, Honorable Minister for Culture, Tourism and Development of Northeastern Region. Guest of honor for today's event, Srimati Anupriya Patel, Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. My senior colleagues, Shri Amit Yadav, Additional Secretary in Department of Commerce, and Shri Jayesh Ranjan Garu, Principal Secretary, Commerce and Industries, Government of Telangana, distinguished participants from the industry, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. It gives me great privilege to participate in this event as the Chief Nodal Officer for Telangana in the Department of Commerce. Some of you may be aware that I served in the state of Hyderabad as a Regional Passport Officer in 2011 to 14 and interacted with a lot of industry representative at that time, and now I got a renewed opportunity to work with you all and also for the state of Telangana. First of all, at the outset, I would like to thank our Honorable Minister Kishan Reddy Garu for immediately giving time to organize this event in Hyderabad. Thank you, sir. So that is the reason we were able to organize the first outreach event on these two free trade agreements, the India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, which we have signed recently. So that is the reason, thank you, sir. We got the opportunity to do the event here in Hyderabad. And thank you, ma'am, also for accepting and kindly making it convenient to participate in today's event. I already briefly made a presentation on these two agreements to the participants, but for the benefit of the Honorable Ministers, and also I'll also inform them about the outcome of the deliberations which were held by the industry participants as a part of the panel discussions. I'll quickly go through the slides. Next slide. Sir, if you can have a look at the slides, sir. These two countries are very important to India because UAE is the second largest export destination of India after United States. We exported nearly 29 to 30 billion US dollar worth of products from India. And Australia is also important export destination. We exported around 7 billion US dollars last year. And both countries are also strategically important partners of India. Both, like we have two quads. Quad 1 is the quad where we have the United States, India, Japan and Australia, which they focus on the Indo-Pacific region. Now recently we have also formulated a quad 2, which comprises of Israel, UAE, India and United States. So strategically also these two countries are very important to India, and we also expect a lot of investment flows coming from these two countries into India. And also one more significant aspect with these two partner countries is that we have significant Indian diaspora in these two countries. 1/3 of the population in UAE is Indian origin, which is 35 lakhs of the total population of around 1 crore. And in Australia, we have around 7 lakhs population of Indian origin. As you're aware, sir, the state of Telangana is a big sending state of expats. We have significant population from Telangana in UAE and also in Australia. So I think the state of Telangana can also leverage the diaspora in these two countries also to reap the benefits provided by both these two agreements. Next. This is just a comparison, sir. Though both countries are very small in terms of population, they are highly industrialized countries, and the per capita income is 10 times than India, so they consume a lot of goods and services. So that's why their exports and imports are more or less close to India. So that is the reason there is significant potential for us to increase our exports to two countries. And also because we have done the agreements, now our products can enter at zero duty into these countries, so we can significantly benefit. And because these are highly developed countries, there is not much competition with our industry. So we were able to conclude the agreements in a record time with these two countries, sir. Next. So these are the salient features of the agreement, sir. So these are very comprehensive agreements which India signed in the last 10 years, sir. Last year we have signed a small agreement with the Mauritius, which was limited to only 5% of the overall trade between the two countries. But here we have done a very deep agreement, including a lot of newer areas like, especially with UAE, sir, we have done with digital trade, government procurement, intellectual property, and also investment facilitation. Next. So these are the benefits, sir. Like both India and UAE, sir, we have ratified the trade agreements, and the agreement will enter into force from 1st of May, sir, which is only 1 week away from today. So this is a very good occasion that we are doing this event in Hyderabad. So from 1st of May, 90% of our products which are subjected to 5% duty by UAE will become zero duty. Means we can sell our products in UAE at zero duty for 90% of our current products, and remaining 9%, sir, over a period of 5 years, the overall products will become zero duty in UAE. In Australia, sir, they are giving market access on 98.3% of the product lines. In 5 years' time, overall Australia is willing to provide 100% duty-free market access on all the products. But only thing is Australia, the agreement is yet to be ratified by Australia because the agreement has to be ratified by the parliament, sir. And now there are ongoing elections in Australia. Once the new parliament is convened, sir, we hope that next 3 months, 3 to 4 months, the India-Australia agreement will also enter into force and our industry can be ready and by the time to also get the benefits from this agreement. And sir, if you can see, sir, most of the products which are benefiting Indian industry in the labor-intensive sectors like textiles, leather, gems and jewelry, engineering products, pharmaceuticals, and also a lot of leather and footwear kind of things. So basically, sir, in Telangana also same industry is strong, very strong. For example, gems and jewelry, we have pharmaceuticals, leather, textiles, and also we have agriculture products. So Telangana can also significantly benefit from these both agreements, sir. And one more important thing of this agreement, sir, whatever we are permitting from these countries, sir, that will also benefit the Indian manufacturing industry because, sir, we are allowing raw materials to come into industry, into India. For example, we are importing coal from Australia, which is also a raw material for the steel and the aluminum industry. So that also benefits our manufacturing industry. And similarly, we are allowing like polyethylene and polypropylene from UAE, which will benefit significantly our plastic industry, sir. So we will become competitive and also we can re-export to other countries. Next. So services, sir, we have done a very deep agreement with Australia, as Amit Yadav sir mentioned. We have significant benefits in Australia, sir. Whoever students are going, sir, now currently we have more than 100,000, 1 lakh students in Australia, sir, Indian students. So everybody will get a work visa after completion of the studies, sir. It is between 18 to 4 years. For diploma holders, it will be 18 months. For graduates, 2 years. For masters, 3 years. And also doctoral students, it will be 4 years work visa, sir. They'll also open their market for our cooks and also our yoga teachers. And also they are also giving, they are willing to recognize our degrees, also professional degrees. So within a period of 1 year, our institutions like the Medical Council of India, Dental Council of India, or the Engineering Council of India, they need to enter into agreements with their counterparts in Australia to get our professional degrees recognized. So that will be enable our professionals to easily work in Australia and also settle there, sir. Next. So some of the important product features in the agreement, sir. Just to safeguard our Indian industry, we have ensured that rules of origin are very stringent because especially Dubai is the entry port, sir. Most of the goods are transshipped from the Dubai. So we have strong rules of origin, sir. And one important thing, like Amit Yadav sir has also mentioned, is the pharmaceutical annexee and annexee, sir, which is a mutual recognition agreement. Like if any product is approved by the 6 developed country regulators, like the US FDA, UK MHRA, EU Medical Agency, and also TGA in Australia, Japan, automatically, sir, within a period of 90 days, the UAE will give marketing authorization for this product. So whenever we file a new application for recognition in the developed markets, we can also start preparing that we have an additional market in the name of UAE, sir. We can also be ready to increase our production to capture the market in UAE also. That is a very significant benefit from this annex, sir. Next. So this is as per the figures given by the industry, sir. The UAE agreement, the industry estimated that we can increase the trade from currently 28 billion to 50 billion in 5 years' time, which has the capacity to generate 1 million jobs, sir, 10 millions, the UAE agreement. Next. Similarly, sir, the Australia agreement also, we are expecting that it will also help India to generate 10 million jobs, especially in both merchandise, goods and services taken together. So we hope that both this agreement, there is a significant employment potential of 2 million, which is 20 lakhs. Next. Sir, just to inform, sir, we have earlier signed agreements in the earlier government's time, but this time, sir, we have followed a whole of government approach where we have reached out to all the concerned departments and also all the industries, sir, all the industry stakeholders present in this room, all the associations. We have had numerous rounds of consultations, and I'm happy to inform you, sir, the agreement, sir, after we have signed the 2 agreements, sir, there is not even a single negative report on both of this agreement in anywhere, sir, anywhere in the media, sir. Next. So, sir, just before this plenary meeting, sir, we had some session with the industry people, sir, who have participated and gave their opinions on the benefits of both these agreements to the state of Telangana, sir. Especially, sir, this we have done on the direction of you, sir. When I met you, said that we can have a round with the industry. So Pharmaceuticals, sir, as I mentioned, sir, they have agreed that this will significantly benefit the pharmaceutical industry based in Hyderabad. And also we can introduce these the products not only in UAE, but also we can use the UAE also a launch pad to enter into the neighboring markets in the Middle East and also the African countries. That is also significant benefit in addition from the UAE market. And even Australia also, they said they will also give fast track recognition for the pharmaceutical products. So both this agreement will benefit the pharmaceutical industry based in Hyderabad, sir. Next, sir, gems and jewelry, which is also second largest exporting industry from Telangana state. They said that the 5% duty elimination will significantly benefit the industry here. I am happy to inform you, sir. Recently, when I accompanied Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister to Dubai, so they, sir, the Malabar Gold, sir, they have informed that they currently have manufacturing facilities, one in Indonesia and one in Dubai, sir. So they will be relocating their manufacturing units from these 2 countries to India, sir, to take benefit of this agreement, because the manufacturing units are costly, so they would like to shift to India, sir. That is a significant benefit we are seeing, sir. We hope many such relocations will happen to India, sir. Next. And as I mentioned, sir, agricultural products, sir, from Telangana, a lot of scope, sir. Rice, we have scope for rice, buffalo meat, and also other vegetables, fruits like mango and others, sir. We can enhance our exports to UAE and also to Australia, sir. And for the IT, sir, especially they said that this agreement will help our IT and IT-enabled services, sir, which is, I think, 50% of the service sector in Hyderabad and also Telangana state comes from IT and IT-enabled services, sir. And so this agreement, sir, which also allows free movement of our professionals, IT professionals working, sir, intra-corporate transferees, and also the families can also accompany them. Even some of the Indian students who have studied in IT and other related disciplines, they can also get employment with our Indian companies there. One important significant thing is that the Australian government has agreed to amend their local laws, which is impacting, making double taxation on our IT companies located in Australia, sir. So once the Australia removes the double taxation on the Indian companies, sir, this will significantly benefit the Indian IT companies, especially also the companies which are based from Hyderabad. Next. Sir, engineering also, sir, we have a lot of engineering companies. We have a aerospace industry also strong in Hyderabad. We hope that the secondary steel manufacturers and engineering sector and the aerospace industry, sir, they will also significantly benefit from these agreements, sir. Even the education, sir, the Australian universities are also planning with the Indian universities to have degrees with 2 years study in India and 2 years study in Australia, sir. This will also cut down the cost of Indian students who are studying abroad, sir, and they can get degrees from the reputed universities. I think recently there is also some plan to open private universities in Telangana state. I think this will also increase the collaboration with the Australian universities, sir. Next. So this is just an overview about the current exports from state of Telangana to Australia, sir. Now the current exports are very little, only around $72 million in the 11 months of last financial year, when compared to around 10 billion of exports from state of Telangana, sir. But I think once the duty concessions kicks in and the entry into force of the agreement with Australia, I think we can further enhance exports from Telangana state to Australia, sir. Next. Sir, you can see, sir, this UAE is the, I think, third largest export destination for Telangana state, sir, after US and Japan. I think you can see, sir, like already this financial year, 11 months, it is 437 million US dollars. I think end of the financial year, I think if you include the figures of March, I think it must have reached 500 million US dollars. So there is high significant potential, sir, because of the pharmaceutical sector and also the gems and jewelry sector, which is strong in Hyderabad, and also the leather industry and other industries, sir. We hope that there is a potential to increase exports from 500 million currently to close to 2 billion in next 5 years, sir. I think both the agreements, sir, we expect Telangana state to reach at least from the current 500 million to at least 2 to 2.5 billion US dollars, sir, and to generate at least 2 lakh jobs in the state of Telangana because of these two agreements, sir. So I call upon all the representatives from the industry and exporters present here to utilize both this agreement and enhance export from the state of Telangana, and thereby increasing overall exports of India, and also create employment in the state of Telangana and contribute to the value addition in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for a comprehensive presentation. We will now invite some of the representatives from the industry who have joined us here today to share industry perspectives on the trade agreements. I'll call out the names of the dignitaries. All the dignitaries are requested to keep their remarks very brief and to the point, and to preferably limit their interventions to less than 2 minutes. We'll begin with pharmaceuticals and medical devices. I invite Shri Madan Mohan Reddy, Director, Aurobindo Pharma. The mic will be passed to you.
Very strong in terms of that our capabilities to manufacture quality products. That too we are exporting to more than 120 countries. Whatever that products is going to 120, it majorly goes to US and European countries. The reason why we choose US is the base for industry. The reason is generic market, especially once patents are expired, next opportunity is the generic market. The generic market, for the, especially as our industry got a lot of expertise, we are able to reach to that US market. I think probably everyone might be knowing, US is depending 40% of the medicines from India. And also, at least I must be proud from my industry, we are the second largest in the prescription drugs in the US market. When we choose all these generics into the US and Europe market, when we are exporting so many countries, we are able to do it. But definitely, these trade agreements will help industry. We will go in a very super speed and make sure there is going to be a huge opportunity for the exports. Really, we are thankful to Mr. Amit Yadavji and then Dr. Srikar Reddy, who initiated this and then made it possible. Definitely this is going to be helpful for the industry. And then go forward, we expect much more trade agreements with several countries, which will help us to minimize our cost as well as that booming our exports. Thank you.
Thank you. From the engineering products, I invite Shri Mahesh Desai, Chairman, Engineering Export Promotion Council.
Namaskar, good evening to dignitaries on dais, my fellow exporters, friends from industry and others. It's a great opportunity. What I look at these two agreements, I'll give my engineering perspective from Telangana. With UAE, it's a great opportunity for Telangana people to get into the UAE market. There are already, as mentioned, so many favorable factors are there. When we go to UAE, we meet only man from Hyderabad and we talk to them in Telugu. So we don't feel that we are out of Hyderabad when we go to Dubai. So we are going to take advantage of that. Already we are looking forward for the month of May to increase and interact with them. UAE as a gateway, I would say as a springboard for our industries. We look forward to go to WANA regions, East Africa regions. There are certain economies which are really doing good, like Mozambique, Botswana, Rwanda, and others. EPC has made a detailed study. We'll work on that. And also to CIS country, apart from GCC. Second is the Australia. It will take time for us. We are on the process in EPC with our secretariat to identify value-added products where our industry from Telangana can join into supply chain. Not at the top level, but there are several tier, second tier, three tier. So that we are working on that. And this will be over a period of 5 years when duty comes down, and that will also help. Our last point is, in EPC, we'll be concentrating on two fronts, our MSMEs and quality. These are the two aspects we are going to concentrate. And I want to mention here that there is a separate, first time, there's a separate chapter for MSME in this agreement. So thanks to our Commerce Ministry and also others to get into, it's a lastly, great opportunity from MSME, get into the world market. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I invite the next speaker, I request once again to please do away with the courtesies and be really brief. From the Gems and Jewelry sector, I invite Sri Surya Narayana, Regional Director, GJEPC, to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. From Gems and Jewelry industry, we are very thankful for the ministry to come out with this excellent CIPA and ECTA. Gems and Jewelry industry is a proactive industry, and it is much into MSME. Now with this differential duty of 5% in a very highly margin sensitive business, this is going to help our all the enterprise in a big way. To prepare our back end, now in Hyderabad, we have done a common facility center which would be operational shortly. And at front end in Dubai, we have recently opened IJEX with Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. So this should help us prepare and take this excellent support given by the ministry forward in a very big manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. From the agricultural product sector, I invite Shri Rishabh Bhiani, Business Development Partner, Goenka Group of Industries, to say a few words.
Hi, good evening everybody. I'll cut my speech short. My name is Rishabh Bhiani and I represent Sri Rama Modern Parabol Rice Mill and Caryopsis Private Limited. Focusing on rice, rice is the most important staple in the world, with more than half the global population dependent on rice. And India is the largest exporter of rice in the world and the second largest producer in the world. To give facts, as far as UAE is concerned, overall first, India has exported 1 crore 19 lakh metric tons of rice last year. And for Australia, we've exported 53.3 million worth US dollars of rice. And for Dubai, we've done, or for the UAE as a whole, we've done 295 million USD of business last year. The substantial increase in export of our agricultural products across several countries over the last few years is a demonstration of our commitment to offer quality products that have been produced with highest care. Government of India at various levels, our partners like APEDA at various levels have been supporting us in making sure that we do our best to export quality products from India. And I think the strategic agreement like CEPA with the UAE and ECTA with Australia will also enhance in the growth of agri products as far as Middle East and Australia is concerned. Middle East, we're doing a great deal of products. Australia, I'm sure with these kind of agreements, will do much better. Thank you.
Thank you. From the IT and ITES space, I invite Srikant Srinivasan, Director, NASCOM.
Good evening, everybody. So I think First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Ministry and the Government of India for signing these two very landmark agreements with these two states, given that export is a very big piece. From the technology industry perspective, I think India has been growing at a real good pace, and I think last year, the year 21-22 saw about 15.5% of growth in the tech industry. And, but of course, as you all know, it's by and large focused on two economies, the US and the Europe, and hence an agreement of this nature will definitely help us to take forward to newer economies, given that our role in the skill-based industry is growing by the day. I think this is a great step, and we are committed to work with you to ensure to make this a reality. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. To say a few words on the IT and infrastructure sector, I invite Shri Srikant Badiga, Vice Chairman for Export Promotion Council of SEZs and EOUs.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening, everyone. Minister Saab, Madam, Amitabh Saab, and Jayesh sir. So I'm representing EPCS. In the recent past, once the Ministry of Finance announced about the revival of special economic zones, I've been given a challenge of coming up with SEZ Plus. So at the national level, we are drafting this SEZ Plus. These kind of FTAs which are WTO compliant will certainly help our SEZ study, which we are supposed to submit to the ministry very shortly. So two things I would like to say here is most important thing for infrastructure. Like when we go to these two countries, when you go to UAE or Australia, we talk about the infrastructure, the Burj Khalifa or the Opera House. Very soon, people are going to visit India to see such kind of developments, especially in the state of Telangana. The recent past, our Honorable Prime Minister announced the Gati Shakti. The kind of speed it is going up is really wonderful and taking the pace. I would like all the audience to give a big applause for the kind of initiations taken by the Ministry of Government of India. Coming back to Telangana, sir, the kind of speed which the government works, the government challenges itself here in Telangana, especially the bureaucrats and all. When you're talking about entire policies depend upon a single window. We talk about one-stop shops. Here we already been implementing for last 4-5 years. The industry is very happy. And this is going to play a major role in our SEZ study also. Single window provision for the ease of doing business. And as you all know, Telangana starts top in this part. But once again, sir, I request all the audience to give a big applause to Government of Telangana as well. Moving further regarding IT infrastructure, here the pace which we are developing is the slab cycle is 4 days. We are able to construct millions of SFT within months. The other day also when I was talking to Amitabh Saab also, I was talking of the IT infrastructure moving back to the offices. Thanks to the IT fraternity sitting here for coming back to the offices, and very soon Hyderabad will be number one leading in India. Thank you so much, Fahad, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the mining and mineral space, I invite Shri Ujjwal Mazumdar, Director Marketing, Syner Global Tools, to say a few words. Yes. Okay. Can we have another mic for the gentleman, please?
Good evening, everybody. The fact that we are talking about Australia, which is the largest mining destination in the world, perhaps among the top 4, and accounting for almost about $300 billion of exports from Australia, and 75% of which is mining. So that's a country which is the largest iron ore producer in the world, 4th largest coal producer. 70% of its coal is exported, the largest coal exporter in the world, the largest bauxite producer in the world. So you're all talking about mining as far as Australia is concerned. And when you look at Indian export to Australia, which is about $8 billion, and talk about Telangana, which is about 72 million, which is less than 1%. So I'm sure this kind of a trade agreement, which has been now signed, is going to open a lot of doors for industries in general in India across, and industries in Telangana in particular, as well as Hyderabad. And this will open up a new vista of opportunities for us to pursue and fill up the space, which is enormous amount of potential exists in this. To what extent we're able to leverage it is up to us. And Australia, for very strange reasons, has not received the kind of attention which is probably deserved. But going forward, now that there is a focus on Australia to do business, and given the fact that its language is English, it's logistically much easier to access, extraordinarily stable country, highly advanced country, wonderful infrastructure. I think these possibilities for Australia are enormous. How much we can take advantage of that is up to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now have one final intervention. This is in the education services and research and development space. I would like to invite Professor V. Venkatraman, who is a senior professor at University of Hyderabad and who is also the vice chairman of Telangana State Council for Higher Education, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I think to begin with, I would like to just mention that the technology applied on life sciences is an issue, biotechnology, and also innovation hub. So we talk about the airplanes and that we have exactly every time technology is most countries. And I must say that India is getting into send out our students there. We can have training arrangements, college research, joint research, student experience, and your leadership process. Recently, you will see us here in the world, where some of our education is done here and not there. Finally, we want to discuss this. Mr. Norman just talked about a kind of a very short-sighted approach to that of looking at students as global ambassadors and learning from the global experiences. With equivalence of degree, sir, or we will work on this, sir, and we in Telangana, at the State Council of Higher Education, very glad to sign an MOU or whatever it is, to make it forward, take this discussion forward, and shortly, probably be in a delegation to look at all, even also with that inbound applications to the higher institutions and presidents of universities, so that we make Telangana a preferred education hub.
Thank you. I thank all the industry representatives for their informative perspectives and thoughts on the trade agreements. Moving on, I would now like to request Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce, Information Technology Department, Government of Telangana, to come to the podium and deliver his remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister for Tourism, Culture and Donor, Shri Kishan Reddy Garu. Honorable Minister of State for Industry and Commerce, Srimati Anupriya Patel Garu. Mr. Amit Yadav, Dr. Srikar Reddy, representatives of various export promotion councils, officials of commerce ministries, my colleagues from Telangana government, senior representatives of domestic industries here in Hyderabad. My greetings to all of you. On behalf of the Minister for Industries, Shri K.T. Ramarao, and on behalf of the Telangana government, I would like to congratulate Commerce Ministry for the successful conclusion of this very landmark free trade agreements with United Arab Emirates and Australia. I would also like to offer our compliments, particularly to Mr. Amit Yadav and Dr. Srikar Reddy for playing such a pivotal role in the successful conclusion of these negotiations. We all know that in the grand vision of India becoming a $5 trillion economy, exports are going to play a very important role. And it is anticipated that almost more than 20-25% of this $5 trillion size of the economy will be contributed through our exports. In Telangana also, the state government has been giving a major emphasis on improving our export competitiveness. And if you look at the performance of exports over the last 7 years, the numbers are indeed very remarkable. In 2015-16, the state clocked exports worth about 35,400 crores. 7 years down the line in 21-22, we don't have complete data of 21-22. The figures are only till February. I'm sure when March data is added, because lots of data is recorded in the month of March, the numbers will be even more impressive. But from 7 years ago, when our numbers was 35,400, we have now reached a number of 73,700 crores. So we have almost doubled. And as I said, if we wait for one more month's data, I'm very confident that it will be touching close to 80,000 crores. This is just the merchandise export, by the way. We all know the kind of software exports which happen from Hyderabad. I don't have to tell you that we are registering year after year after year the highest growth rates in software exports. Our numbers now touch close to 1,45,000 crores. And again, when this year's numbers come, typically on June 2nd, which is our state formation day, we publicize these numbers. I'm very confident that there'll be a very significant increase over last year figures. But again, as I said, these numbers have not happened organically, just by themselves. The state government has a very clear strategy. It has made very concrete interventions in the last 6-7 years to improve our export performance. We have identified which are the important sectors of export, what kind of push are required. We have created new infrastructure. Many very significant infrastructure at scale is in the offing to support the pharmaceutical and life sciences and the biotechnology industry. The state government is setting up a new pharma city spread over 15,000 acres. Similarly, textiles, gems and jewelry, engineering products, mining, food processing. In every sector, whatever is the key infrastructure that was missing in the past, we have taken steps to ensure that all these are provided. I'll just give one short example. In fact, about 15 days ago, I was privileged to join our Minister, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, to inaugurate a facility where medical devices are manufactured. This is a company which manufactures life-saving stents. This is actually a a company from Gujarat, but they preferred to set up their facility in Telangana over Gujarat. And every component that they manufacture, it is incidentally, Asia's largest facility. The phase 1 was inaugurated by us, as I mentioned. And when the phase 2 is also completed in another 9 months, it will become world's largest stent manufacturing facility. And every stent which is manufactured there is meant for exports. And the reason why they decided to come to Hyderabad is because they felt that the kind of talent which is required to do such cutting edge, such precision focused work is found in abundance here in Hyderabad. They also appreciated the logistics infrastructure. We have, while ours is a landlocked state, but in the last 7 years, we have taken lots of steps to improve our logistics infrastructure. And today, we have very good infrastructure towards both the eastern coast as well as towards the western coast to provide quick movement of goods which are meant for exports. But as I said, there are many other areas where we have identified where infrastructure is further required. We are improving the cold chain system to improve our vaccines being exported, food processes, food products getting exported. We have also found that in the last 7 years, many new players have joined this trend of exporting their goods and services. But we are confident that we can add many more new players into this spectrum. New countries have also been identified, as was mentioned by Madan Mohan Reddy Garu. Our pharma products reach 120 countries. Our IT exports reach 68 countries. But there are many other countries also, many other new geographies also, which we need to explore. And I'm very grateful that all the export promotion councils support us in a big way whenever they have to organize trade shows, etc. First of all, we ourselves host many of such events in Hyderabad. But whenever they are organizing something outside Hyderabad also, they give us a chance to come and speak and present. So I'm grateful to all the export promotion bodies. I have a couple of asks since Honorable Minister of State, ma'am, is here, and also Amit ji and Dr. Srikar are here. One thing which has been bothering us from the very beginning is that because we are a landlocked state, many of our exports have to eventually reach the ports which are located elsewhere and then get the exports closed from that particular destination. In that process, we feel that lots of the export which actually originates from Hyderabad or Telangana gets reported in some other state. So we are actually performing much more than what the numbers show, and particularly the rice exporters and all the food commodities from Nizamabad and elsewhere. They keep telling this, that finally when the records are taken, they are shown as Andhra Pradesh exports or maybe Maharashtra exports, which is not very fair. So we'll have to find some solution in which the exports which actually originate from Telangana should come in Telangana's tally. And of course, the numbers are fine, whether we report 73,000 or 500,000. We know within ourselves that we are doing well, but if the accuracy of those numbers are there, we'll be even happier. The second point which I wanted to mention was that few months ago, Commerce Secretary Sir was here. He had organized an exporters meet, and we had all participated in that, where we had recognized that there are many other issues also which relate, for example, to the ministries of railways and Food Corporation of India, the Central Warehousing Corporation, and so on, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So lots of Government of India agencies also need to provide support to the exporters of the state. So when Union Commerce Minister was here, their representatives had also come, and we were able to get at least some conversation going with all of them. But if some forum is organized in which we get the Government of India representatives regularly, we will be able to resolve all these issues over a time-bound, actionable manner, and our performance will become even better. So once again, I urge all the industry partners from Telangana to make use of this opportunity provided for the UAE and Australia. UAE, in fact, I mentioned a while ago the numbers of 2015-16. I was looking at the disaggregate of those 35,400 crores export. Of course, USA is the biggest number, followed in that year UAE was number 3. But when I saw this year's number, I found that China and Russia have overtaken UAE. UAE from Telangana has become number 4. So now that a new window of opportunity has been created, let us ensure that we export more and more to UAE. And as Mahesh ji has pointed out, there are lots of cultural similarities between UAE and Hyderabad and Telangana. So we should be able to make use of the diaspora, etc. Australia is a relatively kind of a new territory, but I can share this with all of you. In fact, in the couple of years preceding this pandemic, we had started some very fruitful dialogues, both at the ministerial level and business level, with Australian governments, Australian chambers, etc. And post this pandemic, in the last month or couple of months or so, some dialogue has restarted now. So there is lots of willingness in Australia to identify opportunities in India. Few years ago, there was a High Commissioner from Australia called Peter Varghese, who has prepared a report targeted for Australian companies on which are the best states of doing business in India. They have identified 10 states, and Telangana figures quite prominently in his report. So let us make use of this favorable ECTA, which has been signed, and ensure that we reach out to Australia as well. But once again, I'm happy that this outreach program to the states has started from Hyderabad here, and our industry has responded in very large numbers through your participation today. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Srikar Garu, for organizing it. Andar tarafna meeku mari okasari kritagyato. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind remarks. I would now like to invite Srimati Anupriya Patel, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India, to come to the podium and deliver her remarks as the guest of honor for the event.
Shri G. Kishan Reddy ji, Honorable Minister for Tourism, Culture and Donor Government of India, Shri Amit Yadav ji, Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Dr. Srikar Reddy, all our senior officials from Government of India and the State Government of Telangana, our esteemed guests from the industry associations, from the business community, EPCs, exporting community, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you who've joined us today for this first ever stakeholders outreach program that we are organizing after the conclusion of the two very important FTAs, the India and UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. Well, I thank you not just for joining, but also for the extreme optimism and the enthusiasm that you're showing towards this very important milestone which we have achieved in this very great initiative that the Government of India has taken by taking our bilateral relationships with our top trading partners, UAE and Australia, to the next level. So thank you very much. I would also like to take this opportunity for thanking Pharmexcil especially and the other EPCs and the state government, the Department of Industries and IT, who've all put in a lot of effort for making this program, this event, a huge success by bringing all of you here and making this whole event very meaningful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've sat through a plenary discussion, and I'm sure lots of doubts have been cleared. The nitty-gritties of the two FTAs have been explained to you in great detail. And by now, you clearly understand the scope of these two FTAs that we have concluded. What exactly are you going to gain out of it? What are the market access which you're getting out of these two FTAs that we have lately concluded? What are the possibilities and opportunities that exist for you? And how far can you go in making use of the tremendous opportunity which has been made available by the conclusion of these two very, very important comprehensive agreements? And the whole idea is, as our senior officer, our additional secretary, Mr. Amit Yadav ji also explained, that before these two agreements come into effect, you have to be aware completely with each and every detail of these two agreements, and you have to completely understand how you have to get into action so that by the time these two agreements get into effect, you are already prepared and ready to make use of this tremendous opportunity. That is the whole idea of all of us coming together here in the state of Telangana, which is also one of the top exporting states of India. Ladies and gentlemen, India's trade and commerce has been passing through an epochal phase, because with every passing day, we have some of the other big achievement. And it is no mean achievement that we have registered the highest ever annual exports of $669.65 billion, which is a 34.5% jump over the same period last year. The efforts of Ministry of Commerce and Industry have also been lauded for surpassing the 400 billion target which we set for merchandise exports for this year and achieving the target of $419.65 billion. Also, the services exports have achieved the all-time high, and they have been to the tune of $250 billion. This is no mean achievement, ladies and gentlemen, and it makes us extremely enthusiastic. We get even more ambitious, and we set even bigger targets for our exports. And I'm very hopeful that with the support of you all, we will be able to not just achieve, but exceed our targets which we set for exports, because in this big dream of making India self-reliant, Atmanirbhar, as our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji says, exports have a big contribution to make. And exports have become the top priority of this government. Even in the COVID pandemic times, we have been successful in fulfilling our export commitments, including the supply of life-saving drugs and food items to a lot of nations who were facing scarcity of these resources. So India is now being perceived as a trusted partner in the global scenario. And with the conclusion of these two FTAs, we can promote our exports further, and it will enable an even better integration of India into the global supply chains. So, when we signed this very historic CEPA with UAE, I wish to inform this August gathering that this has been the fastest ever negotiated comprehensive agreement, which was just concluded in 88 days. And we are going to be putting it into effect by 1st of May 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very comprehensive, very ambitious agreement, full and deep, covering all aspects of economy. And we have to understand how exactly is it going to benefit our country. This FTA, which we have concluded with UAE, it will cause a tremendous increase in our bilateral trade and our exports. The bilateral trade is projected to increase to $100 billion for merchandise, for goods, and $15 billion for services in the next 5 years. In terms of our exports, our exporting community will have access to newer markets. We all know UAE is a gateway to Middle East, Africa, Europe. So we are gaining newer markets for our export products. As much as 1 million new employment opportunities are going to be created. And the labor-intensive sectors are going to benefit a lot. Sectors like gems and jewelry, textiles, leather, engineering goods, agro-processing, these are just a few to count. So this agreement is going to be a game changer. You've all gone through the contents and the details because it was put in the public domain a month ago. So you very well know that UAE will eliminate tariffs on 97% of its total tariff lines, which will cover 99% of India's exports to the UAE. It is not a small thing at all. And there are so many significant provisions which we are seeing for the first time. I would like to mention them. A separate annex on pharmaceuticals for the first time. Permanent safeguard mechanisms for the first time. So just in case there is a sudden surge of imports and there is a possibility of a serious injury to the domestic industry, we can resort to these permanent safeguard mechanisms. On the special demand of the steel industry, we have kept the provision for melt and pour, that criteria for steel products has been added. All this is happening for the first time. And there is a chapter on digital trade and government procurement. So we've kind of tried to deliver on our promise of taking our bilateral relationships with our top trading partners to the next level. After the conclusion of the CEPA with UAE, we went on to conclude the Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement with Australia, also a very important trading partner of India. And the bilateral merchandise trade as a result of this agreement is expected to reach to $45 to $50 billion by 2026-27, with exports increasing by around 10 billion USD. And creation of employment opportunities of another 1 million. So 2 million employment opportunities are projected to be created as a result of these two very important agreements which we have finalized. And these two back-to-back agreements with our top two trading partners give a big signal to the whole world. It is an example, it is a benchmark that we have set. And that too in the very, very difficult COVID pandemic times with so much of restrictions. I think certainly our negotiators from both sides, they deserve a big, big congratulations for the hard work they have put in to make all this happen. And also the top leadership, not just from India, UAE, Australia, everywhere, because it's their extreme level of commitment and the cooperation which they have extended to our negotiating teams at all times, because of which we have been able to ultimately give a final shape to these two very important agreements. And now, we are trying very hard to operationalize the two. For UAE, I already told you that 1st of May 2022, we will be able to put it into effect. Australia might take a little more time, there are elections, but not too far. That will also happen very soon. So what is the important point? When Government of India has a vision to see this bilateral economic and commercial relationship growing exponentially in the years to come, you have a big contribution to make. You have a huge role to play. There are tremendous opportunities, as I said before, existing in the complementary business ecosystems of UAE and Australia. So much of untapped potential. It is for you to exploit. It is for you to explore. It is for you to make use of. We are doing every bit to make the environment conducive for industry. You know how much we are working on reducing our compliance burden. You know how much Government of India has tried so that we jump from 142nd position to 62nd position in so far as the ease of doing business is concerned. India is now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. By 2025, we aim to have 250 unicorns in the country. We are trying in every possible manner that there is a business-friendly ecosystem in the country. You know how much India is being preferred as a destination for investment, and so much of investment is coming in for infrastructure only related to connectivity. Whether it is PM Gati Shakti or it is the National Infrastructure Pipeline, National Single Window Portal, these are all efforts which will usher us into the new era, make us look like an economy which is ready for the new age, the next generation. So there is PLI scheme also. You are aware in 14 sectors we have implemented the PLI scheme because we want to transform India into a global manufacturing hub. There is so much that you can make use of. There is an ocean of opportunities available for the business community, for the exporters, for all of you. And we have to work together. This is a collaborative effort. We can't do it alone. The dream of an Atmanirbhar Bharat cannot be realized with Government of India working alone. We have to work hand in hand with the state government, with the EPCs, with the exporter community, with business bodies, everybody, all of us. It has to be a collective initiative. So I'm very confident that these trade agreements that we have concluded with the two countries, the depth and range of the market access which has been agreed upon by both the countries insofar as the goods and services are concerned, are actually in sync with our very, very exceptional and strategic relationship with both countries. We are also currently negotiating with European Union, UK, Canada, the Gulf Cooperation Council, Israel, and the Southern African Customs Unions, and hopefully we'll be able to conclude few of these by the end of this year. So, as I said before, we all have a contribution to make, and our contribution to global exports is merely 2%. This does not go down well, and this should not go down well with any of us, because India is a huge nation full of resources. Government of India is providing a very supportive environment. So why not make best use of the opportunity and increase our share in the global exports? Today's event is dedicated to all of you, and especially to our MSMEs. This is to give you that piece of information which is very important, because information is power, and information brings growth, development, and prosperity. So make use of this information. We are here to support you, facilitate you in every possible way. My dear friends, we are standing here today in the very, very important state, Telangana. This is one of the top exporting states of India. And if I may quote some data here, in 2021, the GSDP has been to the tune of 6.5 lakh crores. The total exports which were made in 2021 to the tune of 2,10,061 crores. Total exports that India made in 2021, the contribution of Telangana to the merchandise exports was around 3%, and to the services was close to 10%. This is a state where the export to GSDP ratio for the year 2020-21 has been 1.74%. The Export Preparedness Index of Telangana, the ranking, I'm being told, is dropped by 2 places. It is 10th now. The Leeds ranking also is 10th. It's the 5th landlocked states of the country. There are 35 operational SEZs in Telangana, most of them in IT and IT-enabled services. And when I see Telangana, in respect of the 2 very important comprehensive agreements that we have concluded, there are 5 top commodities which Telangana exports: pharma, engineering goods, electronics, chemicals, minerals, agro-products. These are the commodities in case of which there are huge opportunities which will now be available for the state. It's a state with a huge potential. I've heard some of your concerns, Jayesh, Ranjan ji, and we have put a nodal officer in every state. Dr. Srikar Reddy is the nodal officer for Telangana. Some of your concerns were also briefed to me before we began this meeting. We will certainly try to help you in every possible way. Our nodal officers have a specific job to perform, to look into all the hurdles, all the issues of these state governments, and see what best can be done from their end in removing those bottlenecks and helping you join us in this journey of promoting our exports and contributing to this big vision of creating a $5 trillion economy, which is especially important because today we are in the post-COVID times. And exports and these 2 important agreements we have concluded are going to play a major role in not just the post-economic recovery, but also fueling our future economic growth, contributing to the prosperity of the nation, not just India, but also our partner nations. So coming back to Telangana, I would also appreciate that Telangana is one of the very active states insofar as the districts as exports hubs initiative of the Ministry of Commerce and Industry is concerned. You're all aware, my dear friends, Honorable Prime Minister of India, when he spoke to us from the ramparts of Red Fort, he said that every district in India makes a product which is locally produced. We just have to do some quality improvement, value addition, and it may have a great export potential. Our exports will not drop from the sky. They will originate, they will emerge from our districts, maybe from a village, maybe from a small town. So every district has to be converted into an export hub. This is a very, very important initiative. And Telangana has responded very well. This is a state where the implementation of this initiative has been quite a good affair for us in 33 districts of Telangana. Because my DGFT regional authorities are working closely with the state government authorities, And it has been such a beautiful cooperation that in 33 districts, we have been able to already constitute the district export promotion committees. It is remarkable, absolutely praiseworthy. I want to thank your government. And I'm sure if we cooperate like this, like I said before, Telangana has a huge potential, which is why we have come here to assure you that we are there with you. We are there for you. We will facilitate every effort. We will handhold you. And we want the state to contribute more towards this big target of making India self-reliant. And I'm also happy to say that my ministry will be supporting the Federation of Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industry in organizing the training program on export-import management in 3 cities of Telangana: Hyderabad, Nizamabad, and Warangal. So before I finally conclude, my friends, I urge our exporters, our industry representatives, the EPCs, and all other stakeholders who are here today, come together and leverage on the conducive platforms which have been created with these landmark agreements. We have delivered on our promise of creating a more industry-free environment, an ecosystem. It is now your turn to step up and get into action. Your efforts will really take the country forward and fulfill the dreams and aspirations of a prosperous, resilient, and a sustainable future for the country. So thank you very much for being patient, and I'm sure we can all walk the talk, and we can all fulfill the dream and the vision of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your overarching and extremely informative remarks. Thank you so much. I would like to kindly invite our chief guest of the event, Shri G. Kishan Reddy Garu, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Development of Northeastern Region, Government of India, to deliver his remarks on the occasion, please. Sir.
In Government of India, my colleague minister, Srimati Anupriya Patel ji, Commerce and Industry, Sri Amit Yadav ji, Additional Secretary, Commerce Government of India, Sri Jayesh Ranjan ji, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce, Sri Srikar Reddy ji, Joint Secretary, Nodal Officer for the State of Telangana, Government of India, and all respected friends, and I would like to start and thanking the Pharmaceutical Exports Promotion Council of India, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India for inviting me today to speak with you. अनुप्रिया पटेल जी बात करने के बाद कोई बात करने का जरूरत ही नहीं है। जितना अनुप्रिया जी आपके सामने व्यक्त किया है, मेरा दृष्टिकोण से एक पूरा डिटेल, एक चित्र भारत का आपके सामने रखे हैं। A few days ago, the International Monetary Fund projected India's growth rate to be 8.2% for this financial year 22-23 in the latest World Economic Outlook. This makes India the fastest growing major economy in the world. This robust growth is built on several initiatives of the Government of India, includes Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji call for a Atmanirbhar Bharat. India's record vaccination drive with more than 187 crores being administered, saving lives and securing the livelihoods. Strong exports owing to Indian goods and services being preferred across the globe. India merchandise exports reached a record high of 470 billions US dollars for 21-22. India services exports achieved the target of 250 billion US dollars in 2021 for the first time. The last year saw us break many records in the export front. So many details already Anupriya ji आपके सामने रखे हैं. She has spoken. India's agriculture export touch a historic high, 50 million US dollars. India's non-basmati rice, just now we saw in the presentation, non-basmati rice exports by 109% since 2014 to 6.1 billion US dollars. India's sugar exports growth by 291% since 2013. Wheat export increased 4 times from 568 million US dollars in 2020-21 to touch 2.12 billion US dollars. Friends, this is the Narendra Modi's New India. A new India that offers quality, a new India that offers reliability, a new India that offers scale, a new India that offers innovation, the new India that offers cost effectiveness, a new India that promotes entrepreneurship, a new India that invites the world to make in India. In the 7.5 years in government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has promised ease of doing business. We improved, just now Anupriya ji told, from 142 rank in 2014, now 62 rank in 2019. In the world books of ease of doing business index, promoted innovation, India improved in the global innovation index from a rank of 81 in 2015 to 46 in 2021. Provided predictability by repealing more than 1,500 old obsolete laws. 1500. Today, we are third largest unicorn base in the world, startups with a value over 1 billion US dollars. India is exported to have 250 unicorn by 2025, which will be create crores of direct jobs and employment opportunities. Friends, keeping in view India vision, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision, becoming a Atmanirbhar, the government India is implementing in the production linked incentives PIL scheme in 14 key sectors. These sectors, to name a few, include mobile manufacturing and specified electronic components, food products, pharmaceutical drugs and medical devices, active pharmaceutical ingredients, advanced chemistry, cell battery, electronic technology products, automobiles and auto component, man-made fiber and textile. More than 1,97,000 crores rupees has been budgeted for these PILI schemes, production linked incentives. The PILI scheme will be transformed to India into a global manufacturing hub and create over 60 lakhs jobs. Over 20 companies in Telangana, especially in the sector of pharmaceuticals, textiles, electronics, have been selected as a beneficiaries under the PLI schemes. The drug intermediates and active pharmaceutical ingredients in Telangana, 14 companies have been awarded approvals for 27 products of the total 50 awarded so far. Friends, in the last 8 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has built a strong personal ties and a robust relationship with the world leaders. This has helped secure favorable trade agreements and comprehensive economic partnership, and in defense sector also, safety, security of the country also, with such as a UAE and Australia. UAE has removed tariffs on 99% of Indian exports. Australia has removed tariffs on 100% of Indian exports. I invite you, all the manufacturers and exporters from Telangana, to take advantage of these path-making trade initiatives. Friends, currently, the overall merchandise exports of Telangana is about 3% of our country's export. We need to maximize the state potential of Telangana. There is a clear opportunity for union government and state government to work together. This will be in the true spirit of cooperative federalism and desired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. The states scores in structure, indicator of quality rail infrastructure, quality unimodal terminal infrastructure can be further improved. Still, allocation on land by the state government for various rail projects being initiated by Government of India will address all the issues. We also need work to mission mode to improve Telangana state logistic facilities. Friends, Government of India has launched the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti Master Plan. They were one of the best important initiative of the Modi Government of India for infrastructure, manufacturing and exports. All the important sectors comes in the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti Master Plan. PM Gati Shakti will ensure integrated planning and a coordinated implementation of infrastructure connectivity projects in the 7 engines Prime Minister told: one road, railways, airports, ports, mass transport, waterways, and logistic infrastructure. Government of India will develop 100 PM Gati Shakti cargo terminals for multi-logistic facilities in the next coming 3 years. Government of India spending 1 lakh crores last 6 years in national highway roads developing in Telangana. The 400 crore rupees National Animal Resource Facility for biomedical research at Genome Valley, Hyderabad by Health Department, Government of India will be inaugurated soon. Friends, even during the COVID-19, India achieved $250 billion of service export. In tourism, that is my department, India has moved from 65th rank in 2013 to 34th rank in 2019 in the World Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index. I believe the state of Telangana has the potential to become a major attraction for medical tourism due to strong healthcare ecosystem in Hyderabad city. Business tourism with a promotion of meetings, conferences and exhibitions, MICE tourism. Recently, we are happy to know that Ramappa Temple in Warangal, Telangana state, was recognized the UNESCO World Heritage status. In a textile village, Pochampalli, the Nalgonda district in Telangana, was recently awarded the best World Tourism Village tag by United Nations World Tourism Organizations. According to various reports, World Heritage status and international recognition increases international tourist visas. They further increase the number of direct jobs by the about 10.3%. Government of India Tourism Ministry has allocated more than 400 crores rupees to Telangana under Swadeshi Darshan and Prasad scheme in tourism department. This was used to build a tourism infrastructure in ecological circuit of Mehbunar district and tribal circuit in Mulugu and Medaram, heritage circuit, Qutub Shahi and Paiga tombs in Hyderabad. We are also promoting several festivals that unique of Telangana. Cities like Hyderabad are at a forefront for this vibrancy. Friends, I conclude. I would like to remind you that the whole India is celebrating 75 years of independence as a Azad Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I request the various industry bodies to participate in various programs under Azad Ka Amrit Mahotsav and encourage your families and employees, your administration to take part in India's 75 celebrations. You can also plan your activity in Azad Ka Amrit Mahotsav, your organization level. Together we must come up with a vision for the strong and prosperous India in her 100th year of independence. The dream of India as an economic powerhouse and as the Vishwa Guru are related and well within our reach. This will be befitting tribute to all those who sacrificed their lives and India's freedom in the protection of Dharma, our culture. In these words, I would like to once again thank the Ministry of Commerce and the Government of India for organizing this important event for that will benefit Telangana state manufacturing industry and Telangana state export sector. Definitely, Government of India will encourage all the manufacturing sector in future. Our Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, is a visionary Prime Minister. Definitely, under his leadership, we will become one of the important export-oriented manufacturing hub in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We will now have presentation of mementos to, I'm so sorry, we are used to the language of memos. Presentation of mementos to the distinguished dignitaries on the dais. To begin with, I would request Shri Amit Yadav, sir, to present a memento to Shri G. Kishan Reddy Garu, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Donor, Government of India. Thank you, sir. I would now request Shri Mahesh Desai, Chairman EEPC, to present the memento to Srimati Anupriya Patel, Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Thank you, Mr. Desai. I would now request Mr. Chakravarti to come to the dais and present the memento to Shri Amit Yadav. Thank you. I would now request Mr. R.K. Agarwal to come to the dais and present the memento to Shri Jayesh Ranjan, sir. Thank you. I would now request Mr. D.V.S. Reddy to come to the dais and present the memento to Srikar Reddy. We now near the conclusion of today's event, so I would now request Shri Uday Bhaskarji, Director General of Pharmexcil, to extend a formal vote of thanks.
I'm very happy that I got an opportunity to at least propose vote of thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Minister of Commerce and Industry for giving us an opportunity to be the lead organization in organizing this stakeholders consultation. They know that how pharma and Pharmexcil will perform. That's the reason they started with Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India. At the outset, I'm very much profusely thankful to our Honorable Minister and son of the soil and son of Hyderabad, Kishan Reddy Garu, and Minister of State, Anupriya Patel ji, for her not only informative and extempore and inspiring address for almost the 15 minutes. And I'm also thankful to our Additional Secretary, Amit Yadav ji, actually who was in the forefront as a DGFT during the pandemic, and we are very much thankful to you, sir, on behalf of the industry. And I am also thankful to Srikar Reddy Garu for coordinating with Pharmexcil. And I am also thankful to all the federating bodies. No, I'll tell. All the federating bodies and the supporting state, Government of Telangana, and Jayesh Ranjan ji always in the forefront in working closely with the industry. Almost every 2 days, he's always in the limelight. He will be always championing the cause of Telangana industry. And I'm also thankful to the state government, DGFT, and Export Commissioner, and the entire industry. Once again, I think this is going to be a launching pad, and we'll continue to move further and to attain and to reach the target fixed by our Honorable Prime Minister. With this, thank you very much, and please have dinner. And once again, thank you all, particularly to the media and everyone. Thank you.